Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Muty Lover Talks for way too long, probably. X-Men 97 is a show I never thought would exist. I didn't really grow up watching X-Men the animated series, but I did watch it in preparation for the show, and I loved it, and I never thought there would be such a good X-Men animated show. You see, I really like Wolverine and the X-Men and X-Men Evolution. I think those are two very good shows. But this show is something way different. See, I've always loved the X-Men. Wolverine is like my fourth favorite superhero, which I know isn't that impressive, but most of the X-Men do make it pretty high up on my list. When I was watching the original series for this, I really enjoyed it. It's quite cool and mature, especially for a 90s animated show. I mean, that was on like television, and Wolverine stabs robots. I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, he doesn't stab any people, but he does stab robots. Whenever I go back to watch Spider-Man or another show around that time, I realize how censored these shows were. I mean, most of the time, the police use laser pistols, and Wolverine never stabs a single human. Ever. Not once in that show. Like, he slashes at Omega Red sometimes. Obviously, this all makes sense. It's a kid's show. There's no need for Wolverine to murder somebody, alright? Why would he need to do that? Cyclops does not need to break someone's neck. But, in X-Men 97, the animation for this show was something I, along with everyone else, was pretty worried about. I mean, when it was revealed that it was going to be a mix of 3D and 2D, pretty much everybody thought it was going to look like What If, which doesn't look the best. I actually don't know a single person who likes What If. But luckily for us, the show does not look like that at all. Most of the time, I couldn't even tell what was animated with 3D and what was made with 2D. Because while this doesn't look anything like Spider-Verse, I think this show blends 2D and 3D animation just as well as the two Spider-Verse movies do. I mean, quite a lot of the time, you can't even really tell that things are made with mostly 3D models, except for all the characters. They clearly were made with 3D, but they have that certain style to it that makes them look like they're also 2D at the same time. It's crazy, the show does the exact same thing. There were quite a few moments when I was watching the show where I audibly said how good it looked. And I was in a room alone, by myself. So, that sounds crazy, I know, but it helps with my point. It's got such a good style that combines comic books and the old show together in such a beautiful way. I wish most other shows had such good animation like this one, because now that we've been getting privileged with such beautiful choreography, smooth movement, and interesting set pieces, I don't think I ever want to go back. Invincible. I don't want to spoil anything too deep in the season, but I think I will spoil something, so here's your warning. Also, just watch the show, please. It's worth it. Don't listen to me talk about all of it because that would be stupid. Go experience it if you have Disney Plus. Or just pirate. That was a joke. For legal reasons. Don't pirate things, please. The main villain for this season is Bastion, a man who was created by Master Mold to take the place of him when he dies. And he has technopathy, so he can control technology with his mind, which is actually a really cool power. He's also not a mutant, obviously because he was created by a sentinel and he was born normally. He's kind of a sentinel. It's really weird because pretty much every superpowered bad guy in the show has been a mutant. There's also obviously Trask and Gyrick, but they're both human and they don't count because they don't have superpowers. They just really hate mutants. This show's story gets kicked off when the good old professor leaves the X-Men and his mansion to Magneto, which has a whole load of problems that I won't talk about because it gets really interesting. If you watch it yourself, please go watch the show. Basically, a whole bunch of shit happens. Magneto goes on trial. So much happens in the first two episodes. Cyclops is a badass in the first one. He kicks the shit out of some Friends of Humanity goons. And surprisingly, all of the main characters get their moment to shine, which is weird because most of the episodes have all the main X-Men saying something of importance. And also Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler's in this, and he gets a spot after you'll see. They juggle this giant cast of characters so well because they don't have to establish who they are anymore, because there's been 5 seasons of them kind of acting in character. Honestly, they don't after a certain point. Actually, once again, I think they're more in character in this show than the original show. After the first 2 seasons, most of the X-Men make weird decisions that they never would have in the first 2 seasons, and they are kind of reckless, and there are weird lines of dialogue, and it's mostly just because after the midpoint of season 3, the show was winding down because they thought season 4 was going to be the last one. They got another season. Oh god, don't make me talk about season 5, please. It hurt me to watch. The only good episode from season 5 is Graduation Day, but it's still weird because they redesigned the characters, so it's like I'm looking at the X-Men, but that doesn't really look like the X-Men to me. Honestly, I think this one season of television is better than most of the original show. The only season I could think of comparing to X-Men 97 is the first season of the animated series, because that is by far the best season of the show. And even then, everything just feels a little better handled than the OG show, because in the original show, a lot of characters didn't speak for multiple episodes, and that's the case for a few of the characters, but all the important ones get to speak in pretty much every single episode, except for the Jubilee one, where, you know, she and Sunspot fuck off in video games for a while. I don't know, man. It's confusing, but a lot of the X-Men don't really get any lines of dialogue in that episode, so sad. But it is focused about Jubilee, so it gets a pass. And now that they're not confined to the 90s network regulations, they could do most anything and have more time per episode to develop characters, since they're all 30 minutes instead of 20. The characters get to curse a little bit, and Cal Dodd's Wolverine is like the first animated Wolverine to stab someone, except for the Hulk vs. Wolverine movie and the anime. But those have different rules, and we know it, so let's just not even start about that right now. I wanted to do just a quick section on the voice cast because honestly, I don't think it matters that much, and I don't want to make a big deal about it because honestly, I think everybody does a great job in their roles. And a lot of people in the original show reprise their roles or either have a role as someone else. I think the 2 best ones, however, are Wolverine and Cyclops. Ray Chase does an amazing job sounding really close to the OG Cyclops, and honestly, I think I like his voice a little more than the old one. Although Norman Spencer did a great job too, but he passed away in 2020, so he couldn't reprise his role as Cyclops. Rest in peace. The only one that I was a little bit weirded out, though, was Beast's voice. And George Buzza? Honestly, I don't know how to pronounce that last name. I think that George does a great job. I was just used to the old voice, and it felt weird hearing, like, a completely different one coming out of Beast's mouth. But I did get used to it as the episodes went on. So honestly, I think he did an amazing job, and I really hope that they don't change any of the voice actors for the next season. You know, after watching this first season, I immediately started writing this script because I really loved it. The characters, the writing, the action, all of it was so good. It's also smooth and interesting to watch. The animation made me audibly gasp sometimes. It's so good. And I actually care about these versions of the characters, even if I didn't psychopathically watch the original series before seeing this one, I would still care about them. I mean, I care about these guys more than I did sometimes in the original show, because Jean is boring in that show. And I kind of like Jean in this show. She's a little cool. She's cooler than in the original show. Also, can you believe they did the whole Madeline Pryor thing? And made it digestible and easy to watch? That's so weird. She also dies. Alright, now it's time for everybody's favorite part, The rating. Woo! 9.5 out of 10. It's really good. It's really good. Watch it, please. Please, God, just watch it. Anyways, I'll see you guys in like 2 months. Bye.